Greetings, dearest remnant. In this video, which is part 3 of the prophetic or eschatological timeline, I will be looking at what happens in 2030 and after 2030. And 2030 is an important year because that is when the 2300 years of days of Daniel 8:13 and 8:14 comes to an end. It is the year in which the sanctuary in heaven is cleansed. And it is cleansed because the sins received from the redeemed in the world no longer have to be received, because judgment has come upon the earth. Satan is cast into the fire, and there is no more sin. Okay? Now, after 2034, the next lunar eclipse is supposed to be around 2031, 2032, 2033. I've heard all of these days thrown out for the next and here we're actually talking about the actual blood moon, okay? And these will be full blood moons, not partial blood moons, in these years between 2031 and 2033. Now, from the standpoint of modern science, a full blood moon is called a lunar tetrad, and since it is a full blood moon, or these are going to be full blood moons, they possibly herald the final judgments of Yahuah before the 40-year waiting period begins. So let me tell you a little more about a lunar tetrad, okay? A lunar tetrad, which is a blood moon, refers to 4 lunar eclipses that happen in a 2-year span. Usually, the eclipses occur 6 months apart, with 5 uneclipsed moons in between. The last lunar tetrad was between 2014 and 2015. These blood moons, occurring after 7 years from the solar eclipse of 2024, when Yahuah's mark Aleph Tav appeared in the sky, herald the final judgment. Let's look at what the prophet Enoch has to say about the final judgment. And this is Enoch chapter 100, verses 4 to 6. And the Most High will arise on that day of judgment to execute great judgment amongst sinners. And over all the righteous he will appoint guardians from amongst the holy angels, to guard them as an apple of an eye, until he makes an end of all wickedness and sin. And though the righteous sleep a long sleep, they have naught to fear. Okay, so Enoch's version of the last day indicates that the righteous will be in a sleep. And I'm not sure if it means an actual sleep or if they're just simply placed somewhere away from those who are under judgment. We're going to look more deeply. I do believe that this reference to a deep sleep relates to that, what Daniel, or what we glean from Daniel as being Daniel's prophecies as being a 40-year waiting period, or 40 days. Okay? So Enoch's prophecy continues. And then the children of the earth shall see the wise in security, and shall understand all the words of this book, and recognize that their riches shall not be able to save them in the overthrow of their sins. Okay? So they see that the wise, the righteous, are secure. They're in a secure place. They are the ones who possibly were not the ones who were wealthy or even had the means to physically secure themselves. However, they're the ones in security. And they, the children of the earth, who either had the wealth or they depended on that wealth, or strove to have wealth, although maybe they didn't have that wealth, but they put their faith and hope in the world and in the things of the world other than in Yah. And so they will then at that time of judgment understand that their riches and the riches of the world cannot save them. Okay? Now, after the judgment of humanity, there will be mass destruction of the earth to cleanse it. And the cleansing will be around sometime after 2030. It could possibly occur toward the end of 2030. Okay? Time will tell. The lunar tetrad is supposed to happen between 2031 and 2033. Okay? So the cleansing of the earth will likely be by catastrophic fire, possibly caused by super volcanic eruptions, rather than a flood, because Yahweh placed the rainbow in the sky and made a promise that he would never destroy the earth again by flood. And of course he'll keep his word. He always does. Okay, so let's look a bit deeper into the reason why I believe the 2030 is the end. Now, the wording of the prophecy in Daniel chapter 8, verse 13 to 14 suggests that the 2300-day timeline concerning the cleansing of the sanctuary begins when Solomon built the temple in 936 BC and ends at the final judgment, which is likely in 2030. So here's the wording of Daniel 8:13. How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation, to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? In Daniel 8:14 it is written, and he said to me, unto 2,300 days, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. So the first part of the prophecy of Daniel 8:13 is a vision concerning the daily sacrifice itself. It is not about the removal of the daily sacrifice. So it must broadly refer to the establishment of the daily sacrifice and the timeline of the existence of the daily sacrifice itself. The daily sacrifice in the sanctuary began when the first temple was built by Solomon in 936 BC. Therefore, the vision of Daniel 8:14, and this is actually 8:13, okay? The vision of Daniel must begin in 936 BC. The second part of the prophecy deals with the vision of the transgression of desolation, which involved both the sanctuary and the host being trodden underfoot. Okay, so the first part of the vision begins in 936 when the daily sacrifice is established. The vision continues into the period of transgression when the sanctuary and host are trodden underfoot. The vision ends when the sanctuary is cleansed. The entire vision is therefore a time frame of 2,300 days, according to this prophecy. This prophecy of 2,300 days must end on the last day, the end of time, when there is no more sin and no more Satan, because it is only then that the sanctuary can be cleansed of all sin. Therefore, the time frame of 2300 days given by the angel when he answers the question of how long this vision would be, okay, it refers to the entire period of 2300 years of days in which the heavenly sanctuary started receiving sins and continues to receive the sins of the redeemed through the daily sacrifice in the earthly temple or sanctuary, and this was under the covenant, and subsequently through the precious blood of Yeshua under the renewed covenant. The vision starts at the time of the establishment of the daily sacrifice in 936 AD and continues into the time of the transgression of desolation, when the host and the sanctuary are trodden underfoot. The host is Yeshua and his sacrifice on the cross and his blood. The sanctuary is the Torah, which is the basis of the covenant with Yahweh. These, both the host, Yeshua, and the Torah, which is the covenant, are trodden underfoot in this vision. Okay? Daniel's vision of the little horn, and this is Daniel 8:12. Okay? His vision of the little horn prophesies the Antichrist. So remember, Yeshua said that there would be many Antichrists. There's not only one, okay, at the time around Armageddon, which, based on this timeline that I've been looking at, okay, the Armageddon occurred back in 70 AD, okay? So Daniel's vision of the little horn prophesies the Antichrists that fulfill the prophecy of the transgression of desolation, by which the host and the sanctuary are trodden underfoot. Remember that Yeshua is the Prince of Hosts, as Daniel 8:11 tells us. Yeshua is the host who is trodden underfoot. Yahweh is the King of Hosts, as his title, Yahweh Sevaot, tells us. Now, I have the Sefer Bible, which I think gives a lot of insight, especially to the covenant, into the covenant relationship that Yahweh established with all of creation at the beginning of time, our time. Okay. Now, Daniel 8:12 prophesies of this little horn, who is a successor Antichrist figure to previous Antichrists. The little horn, okay, this is what Daniel 8:12 tells us. The little horn cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. The little horn is an Antichrist figure who magnifies himself even above the prince of the host, who is Yeshua. Yeshua is the host that is trodden underfoot in the vision of Daniel 8:13. Even while the precious blood of Yeshua redeems those who are saved, the truth of Yeshua's redeeming blood and his kingdom and his millennial reign are cast down and trodden underfoot by the little horn, as written in Daniel 8:12. Yeshua's crucifixion was our redemption, but it also signified the host being trodden underfoot, okay, because he was crucified. So he was being trodden underfoot, at least from the perspective of the world. From a spiritual perspective, his crucifixion was our redemption. Okay, the host is trodden underfoot not only by his crucifixion, but also because he is not accepted as Redeemer or Mashiach by Yasharel, Israel of that time. Okay, the officialdom of Israel The scribes, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, all of those, they did not accept Yeshua as Redeemer, at least officially. Now, there were some amongst them who did accept Yeshua as Mashiach. Okay, so this is not, I'm not trying to paint a sort of dichotomous view of Yesharel here. Okay, so this rejection of Yeshua as the Redeemer, as Mashiach, okay, this is an abomination that causes desolation. The other aspect of the abomination of desolation is the rejection of the covenant relationship with Yeshua by Christians who only recognize the renewed, or what Christians call the new covenant. It is deliberately called the new instead of the renewed covenant because it is treated as a replacement of the commandments ordained by Yahweh, specifically his Shabbats and feasts, his Moedim. Okay, so Christians as an institution do not accept that Yeshua came to fulfill the Torah. Christians believe Yeshua replaced the Torah, although the disciples of Yeshua and Yeshua himself, okay, kept the Moedim, okay, and although his disciples continued to keep the appointed times and Moedim of Yahweh after the crucifixion of Yeshua, okay, which clearly indicates that the coming of Yeshua did not mean it was no longer necessary to remember and observe Yahweh's appointed times, okay? Although the disciples did so, the inheritors or successors who formed Christendom and Catholicism rejected the commandment to keep the appointed times. In fact, they purposely Judaized the appointed times and corrupted the Shabbat. All of these, which I've spoken about with you in previous videos, all of these are abominations that cause or make desolation. Okay? During Yeshua's millennial reign, Satan is bound, but Satan's influence is still active through the enemies who oppose Yeshua's kingdoms on earth for the 1,000 years. During those 1,000 years, pagan religions and secret societies that opposed Yeshua's kingdom emerged or continued from the previous era. Okay, so these were present, and thereby they continued the transgression which began with the crucifixion of Yeshua, and they caused the host to be trodden underfoot, as prophesied by Daniel. These pagan religions reached their full glory in Satan's little season, in the form of Freemasonry, the dominant Catholic Church of our era, which is embracing universalism, and the various pagan religions, which are now being embraced through religious pluralism, which is being pushed in the United States as well, which has historically been a Christian nation. The truth continues to be cast down to the ground during Satan's little season by the ongoing rejection of Yeshua as Mashiach and the ongoing transgression of Yahweh's appointed times or Moed. This is happening now in the time in which we live. It is the period in which the sins of the redeemed must continue to be cleansed in the heavenly sanctuary, even while the host Yeshua is being trodden underfoot in this little season of Satan. The 1,290-day prophecy overlaps with the 2,300-day prophecy. It explicitly begins from the time of the removal of the daily sacrifice and the giving of the abomination of desolation. These are the actions by which the sanctuary and the host are trodden underfoot. The abomination of desolation began in 70 AD, although it certainly was present before that, because it is what occurs at Yeshua's crucifixion. Okay? So it began in that period, continued through Yeshua's millennial reign, even while Yeshua was king. During Yeshua's millennial reign, there were those who opposed and fought him. I shared Daniel chapter 11, verse 40 to 45 with you to show you that the Bible itself, the Holy Scriptures, do document the opposition that Yeshua faced during his millennial reign. The 2300-day prophecy begins with the establishment of the sanctuary in 936 BC. It overlaps with the 1290-day prophecy, which begins with the removal of the daily sacrifice and the giving of the abomination of desolation. The end of the 1290-day prophecy marks the end of Satan's little season, and the deception of the little season now becomes destroyed by the outbreak of truth. Deception, the main weapon of Satan's season, is burned by the passengers, the saints, who enter into our domain, our realm, to assist the people of the land with cleansing the earth. The 2300-day prophecy ends when the vision of the transgression ends, and the transgression ends when both the sanctuary and the host are cleansed. Therefore, the 2300 and the 1290-day prophecies end around the same time. The end of the 1290-day timeline begins with brings Satan's little season to an end. When the season of deception ends, the truth again prevails. Remember that the little horn cast down the truth. Okay? And yet, there is still sin in the world for the last few years, 2027 to 2030, because Satan is not cast into the lake of fire until the judgment, which happens at the very end of the 2300-day prophecy, which is around 2030. When the sanctuary is cleansed in or around 2030, it must be the end, because there is no more sin in the world that needs to be cleansed in the sanctuary. This is also the reason why the 1335-day prophecy must end around 2030, with a possible 40-year waiting period after 2030. Okay? So, I discern that the 2300-day prophecy ends around 2030. Dear remnant, I pray daily, asking Yahweh if it is my place to know, to reveal the truth to me and to his other servants who are seeking the truth about Satan's little season. And especially as we believe now, the season is coming to an end. And I do believe that just the fact that we are discerning all these truths, and that a lot of the blinders that have been over our eyes are being removed. Okay, this indicates that the Spirit of Yah is pouring out on his servants, and is pouring out on all young men. It's pouring out on women. Okay, it's pouring out on the old. Okay, old men will dream dreams. Young men will see visions. Okay, that prophecy is being fulfilled. So my prayer is that what I share with you on this channel is discerned through the Holy Spirit of Yahweh. So far, everything Yahweh that I believe Yahweh reveals to me from the prophecies of Daniel, Ezekiel, Joel, and Enoch, and his other prophets, simply confirm everything that I have been looking at concerning these timelines over the past year. Everything seems to confirm it. Nothing seems to contradict it. Everything seems to be more definite and more clear every time I look at and study these prophecies. Any new information I come across, any understanding that I receive from the scriptures, just seem to further make more cogent and more coherent what I've already been discerning concerning this timeline. Do I have doubts? I always have doubts. However, that is where our free will comes in. If we're 100% certain, where is our free will, right? At least I think that is how it is here. We're always kind of tempted to just walk away from it and leave it all behind and not have anything more to do with it, because it is just something so profound and somewhat fills me with trepidation sometimes. So what I want to look at next is the waiting period. Okay. In Daniel chapter 12, verse 12, the angel tells Daniel, "Blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335 days." The word wait in this prophecy clearly indicates that the prophecy contains a biblical 40-year waiting period. Okay? Blessed is he who waits and comes to that end date. Okay? 40 is really significant. We've already looked at some 40-day waiting periods as we went over this timeline. The 40 days and 40 nights of the flood during Noah's time. The 40-year waiting period between the crucifixion of Yeshua and his in 30 AD and his second coming in 70 AD. The 40-year waiting period between 70 AD, when Yeshua returned, and the beginning of his millennial reign in 110 AD. And that was a 40-year period in which there were great catastrophic calamities around the world, and we still see the ruins of those calamities to this day. Okay? Those ruins, which are found in many parts of the world, a lot of them megalithic type ruins, the kinds of structures we associate with ancient Rome and ancient Greece, these were clearly under some kind of cataclysm, just because of the kind of devastation that occurred to cause these buildings to be so ruined. And so that was another 40-year waiting period. And now, in our time, in order to understand this 1,335-day prophecy, the reason why, like I said, there's a waiting period embedded in it is the very way the prophecy is written. Blessed is he who waits and comes to the 1,335 days. Okay, so that is a clue in unlocking the meaning of Daniel chapter 12, verse 12. Okay. Clarence Larkin, okay, who I've referred to in the past, okay, he wrote a commentary on the book of Revelation. I mentioned this in part 1 of this video series. And you can find that commentary in the link to the Sacred Text website. And then just look up Clarence Larkin, Book of Revelation, and you'll be able to pull up his commentary. There's a lot of very interesting information in that commentary, and it was written back, I believe it was around 1918, so it's a while back, and so definitely take a look at that. Okay, now in that commentary, Clarence Larkin calls Noah's flood the earth's baptism by water. It is possible that the very end of our time could be a 40-day and 40-night period, or a 40-year period when the earth is destroyed by fire, a baptism of fire, as Clarence Larkin calls it. So what happens to the remnant during this baptism of fire? All right. According to Larkin, the remnant will be protected during the baptism of fire in a holding place. And I believe this is during the waiting period of 40 days or 40 years. The holding place could be in paradise or in Eden, okay, or elsewhere. We don't know, okay. Larkin believes the remnant will be preserved somewhere, okay. It won't be like a rapture as dispensationalist Christianity believes. Of course, the rapture is supposed to happen before the 7-year tribulation occurs, which of course is not something that I am, trying to argue in favor of. Okay, I'm actually, the Bible does not indicate that there's a rapture in our time, the little season. Was there a rapture prior to Armageddon? No, I do not believe there was a rapture at that time either, but that's a different discussion. It's not the topic right now, okay? So Larkin believes the remnant will be preserved somewhere by Yahweh during the baptism of fire, and then brought back to populate the new earth, okay? Now, I agree with Larkin that there will be a gathering of the elect, and this is biblically supported. Matthew chapter 13 verse 49 tells us, "At the end of time the angels shall come forth and sever the wicked from among the just." Ezekiel 39 tells us, "The continually employed," which I believe is a metaphoric term for those who worship the beast or his image, okay? "The continually employed will be severed out." Matthew chapter 13 verse 30 tells us Yeshua's words, "Gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them." Okay? The end of our time is a baptism of fire. Therefore Yeshua's words were that the tares be gathered and burned. Okay? And Yeshua continues, "But gather the wheat into the barn." And so the wheat, the remnant, will likely be gathered and moved to a location, the barn, while the earth is burned by fire, until the earth is ready to be populated. Okay? And in the chapter we looked at from Enoch, that was Enoch 100, it is written that the holy angels are posted to guard the elect. And then the elect are depicted as being sleeping, and when those who are not of the elect look upon those who are under protection, they see that they are under security, that they are secured. So what is actually happening is a mystery, right? Which I don't know if we will find out any more information about that. But all we know for sure is that the elect, the redeemed, will be protected during this time. Okay. Now, Enoch chapter 1 tells us that at the end of time, Yahuah makes peace with the elect, but the wicked and godless are destroyed. Enoch chapter 5 verse 7 to 9 tells us, the elect shall inherit the earth, and they shall live and never again sin, nor shall they die of the divine anger or wrath, but they shall complete the number of the days of their life, and their days shall be increased in peace. So it looks as if the elect may be living somewhere in a time when they will be completing their days in peace. Okay. Now, is this already the new earth? Is this the waiting period? Don't know, dear remnant. Okay, Jubilees 23 verse 26 to 32. Okay, this prophecy is similar to Enoch saying that in those days, which I believe are the last days, the children will begin to study the Torah and to seek the commandments and return to the path of righteousness. And the days will begin to grow many and increase amongst those children of men, till their days draw nigh to 1,000 years. And this, of course, parallels what Enoch says about their days shall be increased. Now, this is interesting, dear remnant. It looks as if either during the 40-year period, I don't know if this is the new earth, we will begin to live to be even to 1,000 years. However, it indicates that that time of living on earth would come to an end. And it's not clear if that is some kind of death or just, of course, because death is destroyed. Okay, death was destroyed at the cross of Yeshua. So it may mean that there is a transition from the earthly realm to maybe a heavenly realm. But I do understand that heaven and earth become one because Yahuah dwells with his people in the new earth. So this is something to be explored. There's a bit of mystery there. Maybe a deeper reading of some of the scriptures concerning this time will reveal what actually is meant here. Again, a lot of these are written in a way which, gives us limited understanding, because a lot of these prophecies are still sealed and we're not supposed to know everything yet. Okay. However, it looks as if humanity will be on earth, and is this during the 40, if it's during the 40-year period, then how are lives being extended to 1,000 years? Okay. Time will tell. Okay. Okay, so it continues and it says, and they will see their judgments and curses on their enemies. Okay. So the judgment has been occurring or is occurring around the time when the children of men are studying the Torah. Okay. Now, the prophecy of Jubilee suggests that the 40-year period could be a period where the children of men study Torah or learn the commandments of Yahuah. Okay, that's a possibility. Do these children of men include all the Christians who have been deceived into rejecting the Torah? I don't know, dear remnant. I don't know if spiritual discernment of the unity of the covenant and the renewed covenant, unity of the blood and the law, this understanding of Yahuah's plan for humanity, I don't know whether this is integral to our salvation or not. Okay, I don't know. I think in the past I mentioned that I thought, more than likely Christians will be included and they'll now be given the opportunity to learn the Torah. I don't know, dear remnant. I pray so, because Yahuah is merciful. Time will tell, okay? Yahuah is the authority and the judge. Some things he reveals to us and some things he does not. And can we accept and we love his authority because he is the truth, he is the way, he is life itself, and there is none other above and beyond him. And he is the only source of life, of peace, of joy, of everything that we as his followers, everything that we prize above all else. Okay? My prayer is that in these last 7 years, the plenitudes of Christians and others who may be coming from other spiritual backgrounds, okay, that they will open their eyes and understand what Yeshua meant when he said he came to fulfill the Torah. Okay, he did not come to replace it. In a future video, I will do a study of Jubilees chapter 23, which I believe prophesies what is happening in our time, and also the history of the world from Abraham until our time. I believe it prophesies our time, the very end of time, when the Torah is revived, and the children of men seek the commandments of Yahuah, because the blinders are being removed from their eyes, okay? And the Spirit of Yah is pouring out upon the children of men. I believe Jubilees 23 also prophesies what will happen during the 40-year waiting period when we are in transition to the new earth. Okay, I believe that is so, but at the same time, if our lives are being extended, we'll only know that after the 40-year waiting period. Maybe Jubilees 23 is describing what is happening from the 40-year period and which extends beyond that into the new earth, which is when we would begin to experience the extended lives. But time will tell, dear remnant. Time will tell. It sure is a pleasure to be thinking on these things. It's a joyful thought, okay? Revelation chapter 21, verse 24 to 27 tells us there will be saved nations in the new earth. The new earth will be populated by the nations and their kings who worship Yahweh. So there will be many nations in the new earth, okay? Meaning many peoples of different races who together are Yahweh's creation. And so the final question I want to ask in this episode is the end of the world really a baptism of fire, as Larkin says? Well, the book of Revelation does not tell us of a fire that burns up the entire world. Revelation 20 only tells us that fire came down from heaven and devoured the enemy that encamped around the camp of the saints. And then natural disasters were sent upon the peoples that were with Gog. Okay, that's of course from Ezekiel. And we see this is happening around the world today. That's Ezekiel 38. Let's look at some prophecies of fire at the end of time. Enoch chapter 1 verse 6 to 8. And the high mountains shall be shaken, and the high hills shall be made low, and shall melt like wax before the flame. Okay, there has to be fire if there's a flame. Okay, and the earth shall be wholly rent in sunder, and all that is upon the earth shall perish, and there shall be a judgment upon all men. But with the righteous he will make peace, and will protect the elect, and mercy shall be upon them. Okay. 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 7 and 10. But the heavens and the earth which are now by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of wicked men. Okay, so reserved unto fire. Okay, but the day of Yahweh will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat, and the earth also, and the works that are therein, shall be burned up. Okay, Peter was very specific about that. Okay, Isaiah chapter 24, verse 18 to 23. The windows from on high are open, and the foundations of the earth do shake. The earth is utterly broken down. The earth is clean dissolved. The earth is moved exceedingly. The earth shall reel to and fro like a drunkard. So Isaiah describes a great shaking of the earth's foundations, like earthquake. The earth is moved exceedingly. Okay. Now, we do know that earthquakes occur often together with volcanoes. And volcanoes also bring about earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions produce lava and fire and smoke and brimstone. All right? So there's a connection here between all these movements of the earth, right? And volcanic eruptions. Okay. Isaiah goes on to prophesy about the fate of the wicked rulers. All right, let's see what he says about that. In that day, Yahweh shall punish the host of the high ones that are on high. Okay, these are the bloodline families. Okay, and the kings of the earth upon the earth. And they shall be gathered together as prisoners are gathered in the pit, and shall be shut up in the prison. Okay. These are all those who have been orchestrating this mass oppression during this little season. Okay. And going all the way back to the time right after the flood. Okay. When the Tower of Babel was built and so on. Okay. Now I believe this imprisonment of the host of the high ones and the kings of the earth, I believe this begins to happen during these last 7 years, ending with the imprisonment, or their imprisonment. Okay, that is the imprisonment of the high ones who have lived and reigned with Satan during this little season. So, concerning the baptism of fire, there will clearly, based on these prophecies, there will indeed be consuming fire upon the earth, and great shaking of the foundations of the earth, and volcanic eruptions are likely going to be instrumental in bringing about this consuming fire. And again, we see the shaking of the earth also described, so there is that phenomena happening of volcanic eruptions and earthquakes. Okay, already various independent geologists are reporting that many volcanoes around the world have become active, especially over the past year. In Iceland, Italy, the United States, Russia, the South Pacific, and other parts of the world. They also report ongoing earthquake swarms around the world, indicating major earthquakes are imminent. We are on the very brink, dear remnant, of the end. However, take heart. Yahweh has prepared a way to preserve his elect, his remnant. I do not believe we are all just going to die. Okay? We will be protected and gathered into the barn somehow. Okay? Yahweh has supernatural power. He can do all things. There will be a holding place where we will be preserved until the new earth is ready to be populated. Hallelujah. And on that most exhilarating and joyful note, I bring this timeline videos series to an end. Actually, I may do more timeline series in future, depending on whether there's more that I can clarify, additional discernment that I may have. I will certainly share that with you. So until then, or until the next video, and let me just say here, I'm actually planning to start an Antiquitech Africa video series, because as I watch videos about the impossible architecture, which certainly was built during Yeshua's millennial reign, there are doubts always expressed about whether any of this architecture is in Africa. Okay, so I want to do that because, you know, part of the deception that Satan has carved out during this little season is the deception of the hierarchy of races, with the European or white races at the top, and of course the dark black races at the bottom of Satan's, you know, ranking system, by which he obviously was planning to bring about, you know, mass conflicts among, you know, race wars, things like that. And in order to create this hierarchy, one of the things that Satan did is that he completely has tried to submerge and obliterate and completely hide any evidence of this type of architecture in Africa. And any of the architecture which is there is always depicted as having been built during colonial times, when of course the Europeans went to Africa. So in any event, I'm not obviously the kind to look at things in this world, or to look at the world itself in terms of race. We are all Yahweh's creation, all of us, all the races of man, all the nations of the earth are created by Yah. Okay, and he loves us all equally. Okay, and so my interest in pursuing an Antiquitech Africa series is to close a research gap, because it's not something that's really being looked into, and also because it does pertain to Yeshua's millennial reign. My focus on, you know, the timeline and Yeshua's millennial reign has been on biblical prophecies and biblical sources of information that confirm where we are on the biblical timeline. The Antiquitech buildings and other megaliths of that era of Yeshua's millennial reign, that's not how we prove that Yeshua's millennial reign is in the past. It's a clue which might get you thinking about it, but the proof and the ultimate source of the information must come from the Holy Scriptures, and it does. So the actual buildings and the structures just are confirmatory. Okay, so I'm going to be doing that as I find time to. I will certainly also continue with my Shabbat series and the Wrath of Yah series. And so with that, I'd like to bring this video to an end. May Yeshua HaMashiach continue to bless, watch over, and protect each and every one of you. Amen and amen.